Hello, I'm Paul Perrello, and welcome again to the Philly Factor. Her voice has been described as gifted with a distinctive sound and truly glorious high notes. She was selected to sing on the live telecast performance of the Philadelphia Marathon in November 2015 and on the concert stage. My guest has been reviving the music of her father, the late Holocaust composer Joseph Beer, an opera composer whose brilliant career started out as a youth but was halted abruptly by the Holocaust. My guest is Béatrice Beer, who has been performing her father's music internationally to great critical acclaim, and we are fortunate enough to have her as our guest on our program. And Béatrice, what a pleasure it is to meet you.
Thank you, same here.
I am so excited that you're here with us because I've been reading a lot about you and reading a lot about your father too. First, you have a wonderful singing voice, which we're going to hear a little later in the program on a video that will showcase some of your father's work. But how, you were born in Nice, France.
Yes.
How young were you when you started to sing?
Well, actually, that's a great question because my father is the one, he taught me piano when I was 4, and he hated the way I played.
Really?
Yes, that was a source of grief for me and him. So at some point, but I'm saying that because when I was 15, he heard my voice, and that was like a 360 turnaround. He was smiling, and he was very encouraging, and he is the one who made me take my first voice lessons.
Yeah. So at the age of 15, you're
Yes,
taking your first voice lessons?
Yes,
Yeah.
but his advice to me was, first you do a PhD because I was good in literature, and then we'll think about a career. Because he had such a hard time himself with his career.
Yeah. Your dad was a Holocaust survivor.
Yes.
He had a brilliant career as a music composer, and now you, as his daughter, you have your own career as an opera singer.
Yes.
But you're also making sure that his work and his legacy continues to live on.
Yes, indeed, yes.
How important is this for you to carry on this mission?
Oh, yes, it's my life mission, one of them. I feel, because I saw him toil every day. After the war, he refused to have a career, turned down a bunch of opportunities, like the Monte Carlo opera director came to our house to try to make him sign a contract, refused. He was being loyal to his parents, my grandparents, who were murdered. So I saw this man toil day in, day out in the heat of the southern France weather. So me and my sister feel really, we have a duty and a joy to do this.
So when did the family come to the United States? When did you come to the United States?
I came to first pursue a degree, in literature, since my father had
insisted.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I ended up at Manhattan School of Music, and then did my performance, vocal degree performance there.
Mm-hmm. And
performance degree there.
When your talent is discovered, then that you are this tremendous vocalist,
thank you.
you're labeled. I don't necessarily like the word labeled, but you become a soprano. You're a soprano.
Yes.
That's your talent. You're able to sing.
Yes.
What goes through your mind when someone says you're a wonderful soprano?
Oh, I'm so grateful. Because, well, actually, I love to write. I started to write my first poem when I was 7, actually for my father's birthday. But I was singing. My mother says from the time I was 2, there's those pictures of me and my sister rolling. And so I knew a bunch of songs by the time didn't even know how to write. So I guess it's been, the joy in my life is to sing, and my passion, and
So was your father's music a tremendous influence on you when you were growing up, or were there other influences that, even before you discovered your father's talent, were there other musical influences?
Sure. But the first one, I just remember as a child, I sensed this huge talent in my father, and I was very intimidated, actually. Mm-hmm. I always feel my picture was growing up at the feet of a huge mountain.
Wow.
And once in a while, he would call my family, my sister and my mother in the room, you know, when he felt he had finished a gorgeous melody and played to us, and those were unforgettable moments. And then aside from that, my first memory of an opera was, my first opera was when I was 8. We went to see Carmen, and I'll never forget. So that was, you know, and I just loved to sing. And
So was it that opera, Carmen, that sort of sparked your imagination or your creativity or your desire that this is what you wanted to do?
A little bit, yes. I mean, I'm sure, you know, I just never will forget it. And the next year we went to see Barber of Seville, and I'll always remember when Figaro sang his aria, you know, Sono il factotum. I was like, oh, you know. But I must say that I guess that moment in my mind that stands out is when I was 16, I found my voice, and suddenly I was like, this is it. I'm going to be a diva.
Yeah. You're not a diva. No, no. I mean, you are, but you know, here you're. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Point,
Yeah, you know, you know, we laugh and we kid about it because there are those artists that do take on that whole persona of the diva. Yeah.
No.
So when do you, I guess, realize that you have this professional talent, and where do you go with it then? Because you're growing up, you're 15, 16 years old, you're this this talent just bursting at the seams. Where does that take you?
Well, it's a long journey for me. You know, it's like, you know, Edison said, if at first you don't succeed, welcome to the school that educated me.
Yeah, right.
That's my story.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like I said, my father was, do it, you're fantastic, but wait, you know, which probably, you know, I should have probably gone to the, you know, he knew people at the Conservatoire de Paris, the Paris Conservatory. So it took me to a degree in literature first, you know, comparative literature, and then my second degree in opera, vocal performance.
So when do you discover this wealth of music that belongs to your father? I mean, you know, you're growing up, you're a teenager, typical teenager.
Yes.
You're going, you know, for a degree in writing. It's probably always there in the back of your mind who your father was and what he did. But when does that light bulb go off and like, wow?
I love that question because, you know, first of all, when I went to Manhattan School of Music, my mother had to hide it from my father. You know, oh my God, no, don't tell him. So at some point she broke the news to him. So, you know, like I said, I was always, my father's music, I just, you know, that's up there and I'm here, you know, so I had this intimidation about it. And so I had graduated from Manhattan School of Music, and I was at home on vacation, and I broke my arm and on my grandfather's graveyard. It's a long story, but so that's when my ex-husband said, wait a minute, isn't there music of your father? My father already had passed away. And that's when we went through it and found this wealth of music, and we put together like a program of 12 arias I would do with a narration of his life interspersed, and that's when it started. And that was also as a gesture to help revive his music.
Yeah. So when you find all these manuscripts, all these things that he composed, what do you do? I mean, where do you begin? I mean, because it's not like he wrote one or two pieces, he wrote a lot of music, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. And also after the war, before the war, he wrote that opera that's getting to be played all over Europe in 3 weeks. Boom, whipped it out. After the war, it took him like a decade per opera. So you found a lot of different, what you call that, drafts of each aria. You have different versions.
Sure, yeah.
So, you know, it was so emotional and so gratifying to find all this wealth of music, and my father wrote all this. It's like, I go a little bit like, my papa is here, and here's the composer.
Yeah. Where was it? One thing that I always find, exciting is to ask the question, where was it kept?
Oh, fantastic.
Was it in a box underneath the bed or in the attic, or where was it kept?
You know, great, because my mom, God bless her soul, she was my father's associate for like 40 years. Okay. They met after the war, and she was a young woman, much younger than him, refugee from Germany. And so she was, my father's main collaborator, and she kept everything so carefully, very well organized in a bibliothèque, we call it, a cupboard with, so she's the one. I said, Mama, is there music? She said, yeah, here.
What would your dad say today if he were still with us and realize that you've unearthed, you've discovered all of these music manuscripts that he wrote?
Well, honestly, I feel him, you know, I feel a connection with him. So he's beaming is the way it feels, and he's so encouraging is what comes through. So I think he would be happy.
Yeah. I'm going to talk a little bit about your career then,
Please,
because you have performed all over the place. You know, and I just mentioned just one or two performances, you know, at the beginning of the program. But so what makes for a good performance? What makes for an opera singer to step out onto the stage and know that this is the right work that they're performing?
A lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of work
It's
before.
not, I mean, you take nothing for granted, right?
Yeah. And you know what they say, performers, everybody, you know, even you spend very little time comparatively on stage versus in the study, in the practice room.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a lot of practicing, lots of studying. So it's a fantastic question because choice of repertoire is crucial to you singing well. You may have a fantastic instrument, but if you don't have the person who says, this is what's right for you, you flop, you know. So I was fortunate to find, after I graduated actually, to find Robert McFarland, my present teacher, who found the right repertoire for me. And I bless him every day because I was, as a mezzo-soprano, when I went to Manuscripts for music, and then I started Juilliard, and then he heard me and he's like, no, you're a soprano. So,
and so for a person that says, okay, mezzo-soprano and soprano, what's the difference? I mean, I'm sure there, and part of my ignorance, but I'm sure there is a difference between, it's like a bass and a baritone I get, but.
Well, you know what? It's an awesome question because it's a very fine line.
Oh, okay.
Yes, like I can sing mezzo. I would still sing Carmen, you know, but let's try to make this, you know, mezzo basically sings lower, you know, has like an average part of her voice where she feels more comfortable, and the soprano, you know, Robert McFarland has it like down to a science. This is where your passaggio is, so you're a soprano. Yeah. And he has it, you know, boom, F sharp to G, or, you know, sorry. That being said, you know, there's a lot of room to wiggle.
Is there a favorite role or opera that you've performed in that you feel most comfortable in?
Well, yeah, of course, I love my father's operas, you know. I love, let me think.
I mean, you mentioned seeing Carmen at a young age, the Barber of Seville.
Yes.
I mean, have you performed in those?
Sure, I've done Carmen, but, you know, that's a mezzo role. Barber, you know, that could have been a lyric mezzo role, and I studied it, but I'd never performed it. Lately, you know, it's all, let me think. I mean, I love Puccini. I've done lately Forza del Destino, which is a great opera, and so, you know, the more you work on it, the better it feels. So I love Forza. Let me think. Of course, I love Bohème. You know, everybody does.
Yeah.
Mimi.
You mentioned something that I'm going to go back to, is that when I asked the question about, you know, being on the stage, and something very, very important is that your time on the stage performing is not as great. I'm paraphrasing here. It's not as great or as long as the time that you have to put into preparing for that role, right?
Absolutely.
A lot of people think, well, she's a natural. She's, you know, she's a mezzo-soprano, or she's a soprano, or he's a baritone or a bass. So they could just walk out on the stage and do it. No, you really have to do your homework.
Yes, sir. Yes, practice. You know, practice makes perfect, they say. It's a cliche, but yeah, I practice every day, you know, 7 days a week. You know, and it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, every day. It's like I don't want to say the word, but a drug. You know, I start to practice, I'm like, oh, woo, everything is fine. Yeah.
What we're going to watch here is a video. This is a video that you provided us that features you singing. We don't see you singing, but we hear you singing. But it sort of showcases your father.
Yes,
so
sir.
Why don't we go to the video?
Awesome.
Yep.
Gut, mein
wish we could see you in performance and listen more to that.
Thank
it's just
you.
beautiful, beautiful. And I mean, did you know? I mean, I know you were sort of on this path into, literature and music, but did you know or feel that this is what you were destined to do?
You mean my
Music.
father's?
Yeah, your father's music and taking this to the next level.
Not for, it took me a while to get the guts.
Really?
Yeah, because I felt it was such huge, important, incredible music. That was my feeling as a little girl, So, and my father was like this tower, and he didn't mean that, He was very, very, very humble, actually. Never talked about any of his previous success pre-war. It's just, my feeling. So it took me a while, but, it's like, I feel like it's like, it's like part of my bloodstream. When I sing his music, it's like so different from the other repertoire in that I feel, it's just part of my blood.
Yeah. What are some of the other, because I want to talk about, singing your father's music is different from, or similar perhaps to performing, other standard repertoires. So, I mean, it's your father, it's his work, it's his, pen to paper that you're singing. But can you distance yourself from his work and that of other composers? I guess it's an awkwardly worded question, but there are other composers whose work you could pick up, and you may not feel perhaps that connection because there's, it's somebody who wrote this 20, 50, 100, 200 years ago, but this is your dad's work. So is it a similar experience or not similar in his repertoire as perhaps another composer's work?
Great. So there's both, like you said, similar, and it's very different just because also, of course, it's like, I heard it all my life, and then I start to sing it, so it has this memory about it. And, but at the same time, it's difficult because nobody, like the post-war music especially, nobody has performed it.
Right.
So I had no performance practicum, they call it, to base myself on.
Yeah.
So I'm like creating. Like they say, like the person who sings a role the first time is a creator. Sure. Because he starts from scratch. This being said, I was so happy when Robert McFarlane discovered, helped me be a soprano, which means sing other repertoire, because I do feel this visceral connection to the roles I sing. It's more like me. Like Jimmy Levine way back said, it's not just a gorgeous voice. It's how the voice affects the personality.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so personality-wise, I'm a Mimi, I'm a Leonora, there's some of these roles that I just like, yes. Versus Cherubino, which is a mezzo role, some of the other Pence roles, I didn't feel this visceral gut connection.
Yeah. Did your dad ever perform his music while you were a kid? So you didn't, it's one thing to see all his manuscripts, and I don't know if they're actual recordings of him, but did you ever hear him play his music when you were young?
On the piano.
On the piano, that was it?
Yeah, he was a fantastic pianist. He could have been a concert pianist, but he didn't want to do anything else but compose. So he would rip the piano. We had a grand piano, and so yes. And once in a while, he would call us when he felt the melody was ready to play it for us. Yeah. But that's it. No concerts, no recordings.
And it was all because he wanted to stay true or loyal to your grandmother and grandfather who were lost in the Holocaust, that he wanted, to pay tribute and honor to them, and didn't want to. That part of his life was sort of over, and so his music just sat in a closet until you sort of asked your mother if there were manuscripts that he had written.
Yes, there was, yes. And, yes, sorry, I forgot what I was going to say.
When you find the manuscripts, then you start on this mission to maintain and continue his legacy. So where does that all stand now? Are there plans to bring, or have there been plans to bring his work to the stage?
Yes, absolutely. You know, there's been like a momentum. I started by doing recitals of his music everywhere, and at some point my mother said, we need a publisher. And so a great publisher in Vienna called Doblinger accepted to take my father on the roster, you know, who my father was not known at all, so it was difficult to find somebody. But so, make a long story short, fast forward till last year, there was a fantastic production of that opera. You know, the aria you heard from is excerpted from his youth success, the one he wrote in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So it was at the Opera of Graz in Austria, which is the second largest opera in Austria. 12 sold out performances.
Wow.
Like, yeah, no, dream come true. Ah,
Yeah.
my sister was there, and she said there was a standing ovation at opening night. And yeah, it was like, wow. And then it was performed in Linz, and actually 2 days from now, there's a huge new breakthrough. I'll just let you know, there is a piece he composed, he called it a jazz symphony, a 12-minute piece, and composed pre-war when he was a kid, is going to be performed by a fantastic European conductor called Lukáš Borovič with Majdori, you know, the famous violin player, in the same concert on Friday.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic.
So excited.
So when you finally get a publisher to publish his music, do they take all of the music, or do you and your sister or whomever the estate says, well, this is the music we want to give you? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, we started with the first 2 operas. Like there's Polnische Hochzeit, Polish Wedding, the one he composed pre-war, and then there was one he composed almost all in his head during the war in hiding. Yeah. It's called Stradella in Venice, Stradella in Venedig. So those are the 2, and they have triptych too. And he wrote 2 huge operas post-war. Basically, you know, he wrote a bunch of other things, but so, and that's, you know, remains to be published.
Yeah. What is remarkable is that the one opera that you just mentioned that he composed in his head during, you know, the war. I mean, it's amazing that so, I mean, does he ultimately write it? Obviously, he writes it down then? I mean...
Yeah. What I mean, like, he didn't have a piano. Like, he heard all the instruments. Yeah, okay, I'll just tell you a quick side story. He was all along during the war trying to save his parents and sending money to Poland. They were trapped there. The money never made it. But one thing he did to try to make a lot of money, he accepted a commission from a Zurich opera conductor who said, please write an opera and I'll sign it and I'll pay you lots of money. So my father wrote the whole opera, also in his head, in 3 weeks in the hotel room, sent it to the Zurich Opera House. It was played. He heard it on the radio, and he said, sounds pretty good to me. I would change a few notes. But, you know, I can't even imagine how.
Yeah. Did he talk to you when you were a young girl in France about all of, because oftentimes people, when they lived through such a traumatic experience like that, they sort of shut down, isolate it, compartmentalize it, and they don't. Did he ever talk to you about why he decided to do what he decided to do, and what life was like at that time?
By bits and pieces, you say? Once in a while, I remember him like mentioning, you know, I would go to the cafes in Vienna where he was based every day, and they have those newspapers hanging from a wooden rod, and he would pick one up, and there would always be a review of Polnische Hochzeit somewhere in the world, you know, his opera. So he was like, and his eyes was like glittering with wonder. So, you know, once in a while he would talk. Yeah.
Did he ever say who his musical influences were when he was growing up?
Sure. Okay, so there's a joke, you know, he would always make on May 7, his birthday was also Brahms and Tchaikovsky's. So he
not a bad day to be born, right? Yeah. It's sort of,
That's cute. That's so cute, because he wouldn't say that, but I think that's what he implied, and he would chuckle, you know, just. But they were some of his major influences. And Brahms was somebody who would like work on polishing. And also something that Brahms had a very hard time during his life is he would create, as I'm sure you know, like timeless, gorgeous melodies. And people would say, I guess the current critics would say, it's just beautiful. What's the big deal? You know? And I heard Lorraine Mazel actually one time on the radio say, it's beautiful, but it's divine. It's, you know, how do you say in English? It's simple, but somebody had to think of, you know. You know,
so here you are balancing your father's work and your career. Are you having fun?
Yes.
Yeah.
When I sing, it's like heaven. I hope other people are in heaven too when I sing. But
Is
For
that
me,
sort of
like-
yeah? Is that sort of like a an escape for you? In that you're on the stage and you're singing, and you're just in a different place in a different world.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. I invest myself totally, before I go on. Like I told you, I work, and I think, and I feel this duty towards. Like actually, I'm a believer, so I pray even to the composer himself, Puccini or Verdi, but I put myself in a zone, whereby when I step on stage, I want somebody else to be singing through me.
Yeah.
Type thing.
Yeah. Well, you
lucky.
have a wonderful voice.
Well, thank you.
I have to commend you on your career.
Thank you.
And also
Appreciate
have
it.
to commend you for the work that you're doing in maintaining and furthering your father's legacy.
Gonna cry.
No, I'm not going to let you cry. It'll ruin your makeup. I'm not going to let.
Oh, no, forget it.
Not going to let you do that.
Thank you,
Beatrice,
that's
thank
very
you so
sweet.
much.
Thank you,
Thank you for
Paul.
being with us. And again, I want to thank Beatrice for being with us on this edition of the Philly Factor. Until we meet again, my name is Paul Perrello. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Philly Factor.